With all of the nice weather and pandemic restrictions easing up, we thought it would be a good time to pay a visit once again to Father Brian McGrath, the pastor of St. Mary's in Lee, to see what he's got cooking this spring season. Well, it is so great to be back here in Lee with you, Father Brian. It's been a little bit of a while.
Yeah, right. With the COVID shutdown, it's been well over a year. But
Yes.
now that we've both been vaccinated, and as the bishop said, we're not just getting back to normal, we're trying to get back to better. And so this is so great to have you back to the Berkshires.
Very happy to be here, and it looks like you've been well prepared here. I think you were telling me that you grew some beans.
Yeah.
You have you're a really big gardener anyways.
We love to garden. We're actually starting a community garden out here behind the church. So a downtown garden that we hope to get the community involved in, and food for the poor, food for the local community. Should be great.
Oh, what a great idea. So what did you grow? What do you have for
Yeah,
us
so when you
today?
said we could do another segment, I said, well, what do I have left from the garden? And think about, that was last year. One of the things I grew was beans. So I have kidney beans and these cannellini beans, these white beans. And I thought we'd make a sort of a bean Tuscan soup. They call it ribollita. It's a nice way. So the star of the show is going to be our beans and our bread. We'll see what happens there. But we also need some tomatoes and spinach and some herbs like rosemary and parsley and onion, some pancetta. I always got to go to pancetta. And then the garlic and the carrots and the celery, salt and pepper and olive oil. So it's a simple Tuscan soup.
Nice Italian meal. If you're having your family over, if they've all been vaccinated and everybody can finally get together now, you can make one big pot and it can feed everybody, right?
Yeah. And it's sort of also spring cleaning. Like if you're making it, you're saying, oh, I've got this in the refrigerator. Will that go? If you like it, throw it in there too.
Everything goes in soup.
Right? Yeah. So let's get started. So I took the beans last night and I soaked them. So they're in just simple water overnight. I've been rinsing them before the show started. So I'm just going to drain the beans. So we've got our beans in our pot. We'll let that come to a boil. And then while that's going to come to a boil, while it's going to boil for about 30 minutes, we're going to start our base.
Okay.
So our base is going to take, start with our pancetta and oil.
Now, if you have canned beans, you wouldn't have to boil them for very long. This is just because they're dried and they need to cook, right?
Right. Yeah. So as you're going through, when we start this, we'll try to taste, see how soft or firm they are. You don't want your beans to turn to total mush.
Okay.
So we're going to add our pancetta to our oil.
And pancetta is what?
So it's sort of Italian bacon. So it's a more flavorful, thicker cut.
Have you been making a lot of meals during COVID?
Yeah, so during COVID, it's been sort of, I haven't gained a lot of weight.
No, you look great. You look the
same. A little bit of a
same.
health issue, but no, it's comfort food is very comforting, especially in the depths of COVID.
Oh, yeah.
And I love to cook, so at the end of a long day, it was just a great way to find some de-stress and kind of relax a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so what else do we have here? We have pancetta in the frying pan.
Right, so I like to let that get a little bit brown. We've got 30 minutes or so with that, so we have time for this to cook up. So the beans are starting to boil. We'll put our lid aside so they can just do a gentle boil. You don't want to overdo it. And then the pancetta is starting to simmer.
Smells great already.
Oh, anything with bacon, right?
Yes, that's my favorite.
So with the bacon, we'll add onions to clarify. It was just basically, this was actually a larger onion than some people might like, but I took one onion and I just chopped it up.
Just your traditional white onion?
Yeah, I tend to go with Vidalia or sweeter onions.
Oh,
I'm
I
not
love
a
Vidalia
big
onion.
fan of the sort of tradition, yeah.
Yeah.
And then celery. And again, a stalk of celery, chop it up. Carrots.
Did you grow those carrots too?
I did grow carrots, but there are not any left. It's so sad. You get to the end of your garden
I
and
know.
all the great things, and then by about November, they're all gone.
All of the good things in the fall, you have apple picking and peaches in the late summer and all of the vegetables you harvest, and then you get to the middle of the winter, unless you can things
Right.
like tomatoes or whatnot.
So just let that do a low simmer, low, kind of fry it up. The other star of our show, though, is the Tuscan bread. So if you can get a decent ciabatta, that's kind of fun. And especially now, with we're getting back to better, this idea of like, I don't know, eating well, finding good things. And I always think of bread as the bread of life. I always go back to Jesus. So for me, whenever I make bread or I cook with good bread, it's wonderful. And so with this, what we're going to do is we're going to cube it. Well, so while our other things are going along, all I'm going to do is just kind of make it into bite-sized cubes. So our beans have been going for a while. And they're starting to get tender, but they still have firmness. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take some of our beans. If you have a food processor, this is a nice, just a blender.
And this just makes a thickening of the stock at the base.
So you get a fullness of the bean flavor, and you still have some of the bean texture with the other ones. So our beans are being stirred. We're going to take our base, I'm going to pour it in. Right, so we stir in our base. Boil again, we're going to add in our tomatoes. So we'll let that cook, and then we'll add the spinach.
Definitely getting a rainbow of colors in there, Father Brian.
And it's thickening up, but it's still kind of a loose soup. It's very...
Yep. So then you have a trick.
But here's our trick. The other star of the show is our bread. So let's have some soup.
Okay. Well, it's been great being here, Father. Thank you so much for your recipe. And we'll actually put that on I Observe and let people make it for themselves. But here's to getting back to better, right?
Yes, and thank you for all coming out to visit us. It's really wonderful. So
pleasure.
Back to better.
Yeah. And cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, this is delicious.
Right?
Yes.